I've driven thousands of people in this city. I've seen everything. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for the moment I looked in my rearview mirror and saw my own wife. She was supposed to be 1,000 miles away, visiting her sister, but she was right there, in the back of my cab, with another man. This is the story of the worst fare of my life. This is the story of the confrontation that ended my marriage. It was a Friday night, late. The kind of late where you're running on fumes and just counting the minutes until you can go home. My wife, Sarah, was supposedly out of town. She had called me that morning, saying she was having a great time with her sister and she'd be back Sunday. I was looking forward to a quiet weekend, maybe catching up on some sleep. I was cruising near the theater district when I got a ping, a pickup from a high-end cocktail bar, the kind of place where people go to start trouble. I pulled up to the curb. Two people walked out, a man and a woman. They were laughing, close, their arms linked. The man was tall, sharp suit, the kind of guy who looks like he owns the world. The woman was Sarah, my wife. My heart didn't just drop, it shattered. It felt like a physical blow to the chest. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. She was wearing the blue dress I bought her for our anniversary. She was laughing that deep, genuine laugh she usually only saved for me. They got in the back seat. They were so wrapped up in each other, they didn't even look at the driver. The man gave me the address. It was a luxury apartment building across town. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. My throat was a knot of pure shock and betrayal. I just put the car in drive and pulled away. The first 5 minutes were a blur. I was driving on autopilot, my mind screaming, "It's not her, it can't be her. It's just someone who looks like her." But it was her. I knew the curve of her neck, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear. I kept glancing in the rearview mirror. They were talking, whispering, touching. The man had his arm around her. She was leaning into him. I had to know. I had to be sure. I cleared my throat. "So, where are you two headed tonight?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral, just a tired cab driver making small talk. The man answered, "Just a long night out, heading back to my place." He sounded smug. Sarah didn't even look up. She just squeezed his hand. I tried again. "Nice dress," I said, my voice cracking a little. "Looks familiar." That got her attention. She finally looked up, right into the rearview mirror. The color drained from her face. Her eyes went wide with terror I'd never seen before. The laughter died in her throat. The man, oblivious, just patted her leg. "See? Even the driver thinks you look good, babe." I didn't say anything else. I just drove. But the silence in the cab was now deafening. Sarah was frozen, staring at me in the mirror. She knew I knew. The rest of the ride was a slow, agonizing torture. They stopped talking. The man, sensing the shift, started scrolling on his phone. Sarah just stared at the back of my head, her eyes pleading, terrified. I started to piece it together. The trip to her sister's was a lie. The whole weekend was a lie. This man was the reason she was never home on time, the reason she was always tired. I drove past our apartment building. The lights were off. The lie was complete. I needed to buy time. I needed to think. I needed to get them alone. I took a wrong turn. A deliberate, obvious wrong turn down a dark, empty side street. "Hey, man," looking up from his phone. "Where are you going? The address is that way." "Sorry," I said, pulling the car over to the curb and turning off the engine. "Engine light just came on. I need to check something under the hood. It'll just be a minute." I got out of the cab, walked around to the back, and opened the passenger door. The man was already reaching for his wallet. "Look, just take the money," he said, annoyed. "We'll get another cab." I ignored him. I looked straight at Sarah. She was crying silently, tears streaming down her face. "Get out, Sarah," I said. My voice was low, calm, and completely dead. The man looked confused. "What did you just call her?" Sarah didn't move. She just shook her head, a silent plea. I said, "Get out of my cab, Sarah. And you," I looked at the man, "you can get out too. The fare is on the meter. Pay it and walk away." The man finally realized what was happening. He looked at Sarah, then at me, then back at Sarah. "Wait, who's this guy?" he demanded. Sarah finally spoke, her voice a broken whisper. He's my husband." The man's face went from smug annoyance to pure, unadulterated fear. He scrambled out of the cab, threw a wad of bills onto the seat, and ran down the street without looking back. I was left standing on a dark street with my wife. The confrontation I had dreaded for months was finally here. "Why?" I asked. It was the only word I could manage. She didn't answer. She just looked at the floor of the cab, where the man's money lay scattered. "I wanted divorce," I said. The words felt heavy, final. She looked up, her eyes red. "I know," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." I drove her home that night. The silence was heavier than any conversation could have been. I didn't ask for details. I didn't need them. The sight of her in the back of my cab with him was all the detail I needed. I filed for divorce the next week. It was quick, quiet, and painful. I still drive that cab. Every time I pick up a couple, I watch them in the rearview mirror. I watch for the signs, the over-the-top laughter, the too quick glances, the lies told on the phone. I learned that night that the most dangerous secrets are the ones kept closest to home. And sometimes the truth doesn't come out in a dramatic confession or a police report. It comes out in the back of a yellow cab on a rainy Friday night, when the person you love most doesn't recognize the man driving her away. If you want to hear more stories from the dark side of the city, hit that subscribe button. You never know who I'll pick up next.